Hi, my name is Alex Shakes, and I'm doing my presentation over Chapter 10, which is about the profession of teaching. As we know from the previous chapters in this course, public schooling was initially intended to develop common morals and political values. To help instill morality in young students, it only made sense to recruit and hire the best teachers. Normal schools were developed to train teachers to be the perfect role model for students. In the 1840s, Horace Mann declared that children generally learned better when taught by females. This led to the feminization of teachers. These female teachers were required to have good manners, good taste, and hold a high standard of morality. Some teachers were also not permitted to even marry and couldn't even be seen in public with other men other than their families, so their dads or their brothers. In the 1860s, women were still considered second-class citizens, which gave employers a good excuse to keep their salaries low. Growing populations and growing numbers of school children led to teachers moving from teaching common morals to helping fight drug problems and crime among youth. To help students prevent a life of crime, teachers evolved into what the book calls vocational trainers. Preparing students to work in a specific industry or job now put more pressure on teachers to be adequately qualified to teach their subjects. Rather than simply passing a test given by the employer, teachers were now required to obtain licensure, including the passing of a state exam and completion of teacher education courses. The No Child Left Behind Act was born to help regulate teacher licensure, thus ensuring that teachers in the classroom were highly qualified. A highly qualified teacher, according to this legislation, includes having at least a bachelor's degree in their subject, obtaining state licensure, and demonstrating adequate knowledge in the subject that they teach. And this is usually done through rigorous standardized testing. Obviously, this can pose a challenge for veteran teachers and teachers who teach more than one subject, since they have to undergo more testing and invest more time and money into their own education to take classes that they want to teach. Smaller rural communities often employ teachers who must teach more than one subject due to the lack of qualified teachers in the area. All these requirements are worth it when you consider the benefits teachers enjoy. Having grown up around teachers myself, I've experienced many teachers who complain about their pay. However, research from this book shows that teachers typically make average salaries compared to accountants, chemists, and social workers while working significantly fewer days during the year as these other occupations. Considering all the time that teachers get off during the year, while these other occupations do not, they really can't complain too much about their salaries. With all the time off during the year, teachers have more time for extended vacations, continuing their education, and spending time at home with their families. I have a finance degree, work full-time year-round, and make the same pay as a teacher. If I can find time for higher education, a teacher surely can too. In addition to pay and time off, many teachers enjoy feeling like their job has meaning and purpose since they are helping children. Compared to the monotony of many factory jobs, teachers also enjoy a range of daily tasks, helping keep their job fresh and interesting. As with any job, there are cons to teaching as well. Teachers with larger class sizes tend to spend more time and work harder since there are more papers to grade and more children to reach. With all the material required by the state to be covered in a given time, teachers often face a time crunch to fit everything in while still making sure the students are retaining what they've taught. Another downside to teaching is that the majority of the day is spent with children and there's not much time spent with adults. This can kind of make a person feel isolated or even depressed. Possibly the most unrewarding aspect to teaching is the lack of respect among adults outside of the education. As a working adult outside of education, I can kind of relate to these feelings of disrespect. When teachers begin complaining about the school year starting, the rest of us who didn't get a summer break or fall break or Christmas break or spring break, yet still make the same wages, tend to feel a little resentment. The pros to teaching tend to outweigh the cons, as I just mentioned. Finally, feeling like your job has purpose by helping kids, daily autonomy, and job security all help teachers enjoy their jobs rather than dwelling on the poor working conditions. Teachers began to unionize in the 1800s to protect their interests as well as the interests of the students. There are two main unions, which I'll discuss here in a few moments: the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers. Both are very involved in politics and have lobbyists to ensure the welfare of the teachers and of the students. The National Education Association, or the NEA, initially unionized to nationalize the work of state education associations. It helped shape the modern high school by proposing a variety of curricula such as college prep, vocational, and commercial paths for students, rather than offering only one concentration within a school. So that meant students can choose a path from within their school instead of trying to find a school that offers the path that they want to take. The NEA also influenced and encouraged teacher training to ensure that teachers were highly qualified for the subjects that they teach. And also the NEA helped encourage collective bargaining for teachers. This means that teachers' voices are made a little stronger because they could vote for an organization to represent their demands before the school boards, rather than individually bargaining with the school about salaries and working conditions. The American Federation of Teachers was founded more on teacher pensions and salaries and aided in the increase in salaries for teachers. The AFT was not taken seriously at first because of a lack of membership and because they had poor social standing, but when they helped get salary increases for teachers, membership started growing rapidly. Also, unlike the NEA, who mainly supported teachers, the AFT allowed membership to all teachers and all education employees, including teachers, government employees, and health professionals. The AFT adopted a no-strike policy because they claimed that striking denies the education to the students, which is not in the best interest of students, obviously. Despite this no-strike policy, however, AFT is still recognized with more work stoppages among teachers. Teachers typically strike when a school board refuses to increase their pay or benefits while increasing their workload and responsibilities. Teachers who refuse to strike tend to be shunned by the teachers who do strike, which can lead to a hostile work environment. Some argue that strikes are actually good for the students if successful, because a happy teacher makes for a happier learning environment for the students. The decision to strike is an individual choice that should be left to the teacher and what he or she believes in. Both unions agree that teacher salary should be determined by the union, since the union has a better idea of the educational factors involved. A single test score should not determine a teacher's pay because the teacher can only do so much to help their students. As mentioned in previous chapters we've read about, home life has a major impact on the child's academic performance. If the child's parents do not value or support education, the child may not apply themselves in school. Additionally, if the child lives in a high poverty area where dropout rates are also high, the child is probably not going to do well in school because he has a poor home life. Therefore, test scores will obviously be lower among these types of students, which does not accurately reflect how well the teacher taught. Teachers can be held liable for the actions of students in their care if the student is injured. The author provides the example of students throwing rocks at other students and injuring them while the class was left unsupervised. Clearly, the teacher should always exercise caution when they have students in their care, so as to prevent things like this from happening. The book recommends obtaining professional liability insurance to protect yourself against these situations. Clearly, the teaching profession has evolved since the 19th century. While we still want to uphold high standards and morality in the classroom, there's less emphasis on the goody two-shoes image of the teacher and more emphasis on hiring highly qualified individuals for the job. With the formation of teachers' unions, salaries have increased and teacher benefits tend to outweigh the cons. Ultimately, the goal of education is in the best interest of students, who are our political and economic leaders of the future. which is why it's important that they receive the best education that we can provide. This means hiring highly qualified and dedicated teachers.